Hi, I'm Lewis. I'm a British software developer with a keen interest in game development. Over the past few months I've been creating small games with the monogame framework and recently decided to record my progress. Right now I'm working on a tower defense game called Project Torrim, so come join me as I create new games and develop new features for my game engine. This is the 4th devlog on Project Torrim. Right now the game has towers, enemies, a level and a tower buying menu. This week I'll be working on the tasks in the tower management task list. This should improve the usability of the towers, which in turn should make the game feel good to play. Once that's done, the current stage of the project will be over and I will be reviewing everything I've done so far. Then I'll be able to organise the next stage of the project. Looking at the tasks in the tower management task list, I think the tower movement task is a priority over the management menu, so that's what I will start on today. The aim of this task is to improve the dragging of the towers around the level, so I'll catch up when I'm done. I don't have much more time today, so I'll show you what I've got so far. When a tower is being dragged, it will be disabled. This means it won't fire projectiles and is indicated by the fact its watch area is changed to be red. If I get a second tower and try to plonk it on top of the first tower, the second tower will continue being dragged. This is to stop the player from stacking towers on top of each other. Moving away from the first tower will let the second tower be placed properly. Unfortunately, there's an issue where when I overlap two towers and click, this picks up both towers, which means you can never place them down because they're always touching each other. This disabling of towers was straightforward to implement. When a tower's drag component is being dragged, the tower will no longer fire and will instead update its position to match the drag components. And as for the drag class itself, it will not be released when it's touching an invalid object. This is done by creating a collision event with invalid object types, such as other drag components, to register an invalid placement. That register is then looked at when deciding if the component can be placed down. This system should be pretty expandable. I should be able to register any collider, such as a path collider, to stop drag components being placed on them. Today I am continuing on the tower movement task. Towers shouldn't be placed on the path, so I need to get a representation of the path in the collision map to stop towers being placed on it. To do that I need my collider class to support having multiple shapes and intersections, so that's what I'm going to work on today. That's not right. That's almost right. There we go. The game looks like it's working, which is great because it means I haven't broken anything. Okay, so now I should be able to implement the path because colliders can have multiple intersections. The way I've implemented multiple intersections for a collider is for it to contain a dictionary of intersections. Each intersection can have an offset from the position of the collider. In all the functions the collider uses an intersection, it will use all of the intersections in the dictionary. This means my colliders can have a bigger and much more complex shape to them. It's Wednesday and I'm continuing getting the path into the game. Since I implemented multiple intersections for colliders yesterday, I should be able to measure out the path and add all of those measurements to a collider, so I'll catch up when I'm done. I've measured out the path with these rectangles, and next I need to put these measurements into a collider. Now, when I start the game and try and place a tower on the path, it will not stick. If I move it away from the path, it will. This means you'll be able to line up all of your towers next to the path. Although this has made the size of the tower's drag component an obvious issue, so I'm going to finish off today by shrinking the drag component and fixing the issue I spotted on Monday where 2 towers are being dragged at once. The fix for the dragging bug turned out to be quite simple. I now limit the number of active drag components in the game. This means only 1 tower can be dragged at a time. I can show this off by adding a second tower to the game. If I place the tower on top of the first, it will not be placed, and clicking on the first tower whilst dragging the second will not start dragging the first tower. This means the second tower must be placed down before moving the first. This brings the tower movement task to an end, and tomorrow I'll be moving on to the tower management menu. This morning I'm starting on the tower management task. The aim of this task is to provide a menu for the player to manage their towers with. When I last thought about this menu, I figured it would make sense for it to pop up in the corner of the screen when you tapped on the tower. The menu will provide buttons for upgrading the tower, choosing the attack pattern of the tower, moving the tower, and selling the tower. Right now, I don't think all of that's crucial for the MVP stage. I think the crucial parts are the ability to sell the tower and the ability to move a tower. So that's what I'll work on today. So this is what I've managed to make this morning. If I add a tower, you'll notice there's a menu that pops up in the bottom corner of the screen. This menu has 3 buttons: sell, move, and close. The sell button sells the tower for 80% of its value, although when I click this, there's a bug where it constantly sells the tower. I think this is a flaw with the dispose pattern I've been using for the game objects. If I click the move button, the tower will toggle between being locked in place and being able to move. And when the tower is locked in place, the close button will be enabled, which will obviously close down the menu. I think this is good progress, although there are a few issues with it, such as the selling bug that I mentioned, and if I spawn a second tower while the first tower's menu is still active, then both tower menus will be active. This causes some confusion on what tower is being acted on when buttons are clicked, but should be quite simple to fix by limiting the number of active tower menus. It's Friday, the last day in my development week. I'm going to be fixing the issues I noticed yesterday, and since it's May Day bank holiday, I'll have some more time to move on to a review of the project's MVP stage. So let's get to it. This is what I've got this morning. When I buy a tower, I will get the tower management menu. If I lock a tower into place, close the menu and buy a new tower, I won't be able to click on the first tower because the second tower is the active one. Limiting which tower is active should simplify the task of managing multiple towers because the player will have to focus on them one at a time. Additionally, I fixed the selling issue, so when I sell a tower I won't infinitely increase my score. With that finished, I'm moving the tower management task to done, archiving the list it belonged to, and moving on to the MVP review. This is an empty task list that I'm going to use to review the MVP stage of the project. I'll be adding tasks to this list covering what went well and what I think needs to be improved. I'll then be able to make last minute changes to MVP and organise the next stage of the project, the minimum marketable product, or MMP for short. So let's start reviewing. Okay, I've finished my review. Let's have a look at what I thought went well. Number 1, I think the way I have organised this project is actually pretty good. Breaking work down into task lists that take about a week each was really beneficial and has allowed me to work out what is really crucial to each development stage. I hope to continue doing this in every stage of the project. Number 2, I think the art for the level turned out great. When I did my initial background image, I felt like it really didn't fit the pixel art style, but when I redid the image, I was really pleased with the results. I think it looks great, and it's in a much better position to be turned into a tile set later on in development. Number 3, I also really like my tower and enemy sprites. They're a pretty strange theme, but apart from that I think they're great, especially since it's been a long time since I've done any pixel art. Number 4 and number 5, I'm really pleased with the tower buying and management menus. Whilst you could argue they look bad and there are a lot of usability changes they need, they serve their purpose well and provide key features to play the game. Now let's move on to what could be improved. Number 1, only show the tower radius when it's active. This is because when you have a lot of towers, their watch areas get in the way and it's hard to recognise which tower you have currently active. Number 2, automatically lock a tower into place. At the moment you have to press the move button every time you place down a tower, which is a huge pain in the arse for usability. Similarly, number 3, allow clicking on a new tower when an active tower menu is up. At the moment you have to press the close button every time you want to select a new tower, which is another pain in the arse for usability. Number 4, this applies to both the tower management and the tower buying menus. They should be closed when you click nothing. At the moment you have to click their close buttons and it would be so much nicer if you could just click elsewhere on the screen to close them. Similarly with number 5, I'd like the tower buying menu to close when you click the button that currently opens it. Number 6, move the score to its own area. This is particularly key because the score is currently just a small black text against the game background. It's hard to see and for the most part can be ignored. Number 7, remove the drag circle from the towers. This is a small white circle that serves no real purpose. The sprite for the tower should be big enough that you don't need to see its collision area. Number 8, allow the level to be moved so the UI doesn't hide it. This addresses the issue that the tower buying menu hides the lower part of the path and will give the player a lot more room to place towers. And finally, number 9, create level path with rectangles to automatically create path nodes, collision and sprites. This will be a huge help in creating new levels and getting more content into the game. With these lists in mind, I'm going to spend some time organising the next stage of the project. Just finished organising the MMP stage of the project. The aim of this stage is to expand what was done in the MVP stage, give the player more variety and progression, and iron out usability issues. This should hopefully mean when you look at the game it actually looks fun and you want to play it. The task lists I've added to the MMP stage should cover this. Looking at these lists, I estimate the stage will take between a month and a half to maybe 2.5 months. We'll see depending on how everything goes. The task lists cover everything from making the game available on mobile, improving event parameters in the game engine, introduce settings menus and sounds, improving the level creation process, there'll be more towers and enemies for the players to fight, as well as huge improvements to the usability of the tower buying and management menus. I am incredibly pleased with this week's progress. Finishing the MVP stage and moving on to the MMP stage is huge for the project and amazing news for the game. Thank you for watching this video. I'm having a blast recording my progress on Project Torrim and I hope you are enjoying watching it. If you are enjoying this, then leave the video a like, and if you want to keep up to date with the project and Project Torrim, then subscribe to my channel. Thank you and goodbye.